So welcome to the Monday routine weekly briefing. I'm meteorologist Nick Lucchetti here at the Raleigh office. This briefing will cover the period today, July 29th through Sunday, August 4th. So before we get started on the slides we like to show here, I just want to quickly show you all the current radar. So let me switch over which screen I'm sharing quick. So here I'm just looping the current radar across the area. You can see that we have a band of some light with light rain with some pockets of maybe some moderate rain down in the southern Piedmont there near Rockingham. We'll see this rain continue to spread eastward. It should largely remain light over the next couple hours. However, as we enter into the later afternoon into the evening period, on the back side of this rain, we could get some clearing in the clouds, which could allow for some thunderstorm growth later on today into tonight. But I'll discuss some potential threats with those thunderstorms in a couple slides here. But this stuff this morning the rest of this morning into the early afternoon should remain relatively light. And then again, maybe some thunderstorms develop out west as the clouds clear behind this initial band. So I'm going to flip back over to the slides here, and we'll go through the pattern for the upcoming week, and then we'll discuss some more about the potential hazards this week. So here's the upcoming pattern for this week. Overall, for today, we do have a couple upper disturbances generating the stuff you see out there right now, as well as perhaps some thunderstorms later today. As we progress into the Tuesday, Wednesday period, we could have some additional showers and storms. Actually, overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, there could be some nocturnal convection that develops. But then as we progress into the afternoon, late afternoon into the early evening tomorrow, Tuesday, some additional showers and storms could see some scattered convection. But as we progress into Thursday, that looks like perhaps the driest day this week. And then continuing into Friday into this weekend, as another cold front approaches, we'll likely see continued humid conditions and the chances for afternoon showers and storms. One other thing to mention here is that as we progress, after a little bit of a cooler day today, the temperatures are expected to ramp back up Friday into the weekend, and perhaps reach dangerous heat levels with heat indexes, potentially soaring into the back into the 105 to 110 range, which would be advisory criteria. So that's something to look out for as we head into the late week to weekend period. That return for heat looks pretty likely at this point. As far as the severe thunderstorm potential for the next 8 days, for today, we do have a marginal risk for isolated severe thunderstorms across our far western areas here. You can see in this graphic that I'm highlighting with my cursor, the upper left graphic here. So it does look like a pretty low end chance, but there could be some of the afternoon, the late afternoon to evening storms that I mentioned are possible later today. One or two of them could be potentially a little stronger and create maybe a wet microburst kind of wind signature that could cause some very isolated damaging wind gusts. But overall, the threat doesn't look too incredible today. As we progress into tomorrow, we are outlooks for basically the some of our southern areas and mostly our western areas for a marginal risk again for severe thunderstorms. Again, those will probably be isolated in nature. There's some uncertainty with this. Some of the guidance actually shows perhaps a better threat up across the northern Piedmont as opposed to our southwest. So we'll have to keep monitoring that as we get new guidance and see how the Storm Prediction Center see if they want to expand that a little further north or not. But overall, tomorrow there could be some isolated stronger storms as well, with damaging wind gusts being the the primary threat. And then on Wednesday, we're back in general thunder. So there's no, from Wednesday onward, doesn't look like currently there's any good chance for any severe storms. So this is the overall QPF from the Weather Prediction Center, collaborated with us for the next 5 days through Friday. So you can see today should be generally some light rain over much of the area. However, there could be a couple pockets of some heavier rain associated with those storms later today, primarily across the southern to western Piedmont. You can see a little bullseye there. If some heavier rain does develop, it'll probably be very much like that, in the sense that you know, there'll be these isolated islands of some heavier rain as opposed to a big swath of it, which is pretty typical for this time of year. As we progress into Thursday and then again on Friday, you can see again pretty low amounts overall, but again there could be some isolated pockets of heavier rain with any stronger storms that develop. Thursday again looks the driest, and then Friday looks like it'll be kind of scattered, isolated to scattered convection again, with overall low amounts with maybe some higher pockets again, with any heavier storms that develop. So that kind of leads me to the excessive rainfall outlooks. So for today, we basically from Raleigh westward is under a marginal risk for excessive rainfall, which basically likens to isolated instances of flash flooding possible in these areas. Again, you know, I think that's associated. It's not really associated with the stuff moving through right now. It's more with if we do get some stronger storms to develop, there could be some heavier rain across the western areas, and some isolated, you know, 1 to 2 inches could fall over a short period of time, and that could lead to perhaps some isolated flash flooding. Overall, I don't think that it's a widespread risk or anything like that, but which is why it's a marginal, but it's something to mention here as a potential for later today. There's no risk on Tuesday, but then we get back into the Wednesday period. Again, there'll be you know, a chance for some isolated heavier downpours and perhaps some flash flooding, primarily in urban areas on Wednesday. So this is our experimental graphical hazardous weather outlook that we like to show here. So just to go through this again today into Tuesday, we do have a marginal risk for some of our area, mostly across the west and then the southwest on Tuesday for isolated severe storms. And the main threat with that would be, again, the thunderstorm wind damage potential for any stronger storm that develops. If there are storms, there's obviously always lightning associated with that, which isn't out of the norm. And then again, for excessive rainfall, we have a limited chance, the marginal risk for some of our area today and then also on Wednesday. And then the main thing to highlight here is that we do see that for excessive heat, we start to ramp that back up again Friday into the weekend. So it's just another way to you know, contextualize all the potential hazards this week. Kind of switching gears here, you're probably somewhat aware if you follow weather Twitter, or the Hurricane Center in general, but the Hurricane Center is currently monitoring a area over the central tropical Atlantic that has some disturbed convection in that area. They're monitoring that, and you know, they've been steadily increasing every day here. The last couple of days, they went from 30% to 40% to today 50% with the latest update for the probability of developing further. So they did mention mid to late this week, there is the conditions out there in the Atlantic could be conducive to the further development and possibly into tropical depression by mid to late this week. However, as far as you know, whether or not this potentially could impact us, the models are all over the place as you'd expect this far out. So there's a lot of uncertainty with whether it'll develop and where it will go. So we'll continue to monitor, but we always like to recommend at this point, since the tropics have been kind of quiet, the last couple weeks. It's always good to encourage yourselves and others to always have a hurricane preparedness plan. And I included a link here with a lot of great resources from weather.gov/safety/hurricane plan, where you can make sure that you have a plan if and when a hurricane does impact North Carolina. So just want to highlight that as well. Switching up here a little bit longer term, this is the 8 to 14 day temperature and precipitation outlooks from the Climate Prediction Center. So the left panel is the temperature outlook for the period August 5th to the 11th, and then the precipitation outlook's the right panel from the period August 5th through 11th as well. So if we look at the temperature plot on the left, it looks like there is at least somewhat of a signal in the longer range guidance for perhaps, above normal temperatures in that period. And then if we look at the precipitation, it's kind of near normal to maybe slightly above average, but that signal to me is more of a just classic diurnal scattered convection. There's really not a great signal there for perhaps, well above normal precipitation in that time period. But anyways, we like to show this graphic just to give you a heads up for what's coming down the line. So just quick weather summary and again, a highlight of the potential hazards and impacts this week. So again, today we have this early morning light rain that will give way to perhaps some stronger potential. There's some storms later across the west, trickling eastward. And perhaps some of those storms could be a little bit stronger and create some heavy downpours and maybe an isolated wind gust that's a little stronger as well. As we progress into Tuesday, Wednesday, there will be additional chances for showers and storms. On Tuesday, perhaps, again, some isolated ones could be a little stronger with damaging wind gusts, possibly. Less so on Wednesday. And then after a dry day on Thursday, additional showers, storms, scattered isolated storms will be possible to Friday into the weekend. As far as hazards and impacts, I kind of just touched on some of these. There could be some isolated to scattered flash flooding, primarily across the western Piedmont and southern Piedmont today and tonight into the our evening period. And then again, perhaps a stronger wind gust or two would be possible with any stronger storms today and tomorrow. And then lastly, one last mention of the dangerous heat is expected to return late this week into this weekend as heat indices climb back up into advisory criteria. So with that, I would like to thank you all for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.